The Denver Broncos have made several roster moves ahead of tonight's game against the New Orleans Saints. So bringing in this tweet from Chris Thomason of the Denver Gazette, starting off with practice squad elevations, the Broncos have elevated Quan Alexander and Calvin Throckmorton for tonight's game. Two former New Orleans Saints, but not the ex-Saint I was anticipating to get elevated in A.T. Perry. I thought that Perry was going to be elevated from the practice squad to the active roster. I thought he was going to be given the chance to burn his former team, but this now means that we're going to have a heavy dose of Devon Vele in this game. I also anticipate an expanded role for Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims. I'm quite surprised, honestly, that Perry was not called up, but the Broncos feel confident about the guys who are already on the active roster. I'm not sure I feel quite as confident, but we'll see what happens. As far as Alexander and Throckmorton are concerned, I think Quan has a very good chance to see some playing time tonight. I think the Broncos might be a little bit concerned about Cody Barton covering Alvin Kamara. I think that this could be an opportunity for Alexander to insert himself potentially into the starting lineup. Barton was pretty terrible against the Los Angeles Chargers, gave up that touchdown on a wheel route to Kamani Vidal. If Kamani Vidal is going to cook you in the receiving game, imagine what Alvin Kamara could do. Sean Payton and this staff no doubt know that. So I think they want a guy who could be a little bit more rangy and athletic in coverage like Quan Alexander to be able to handle some of these duties. Would not be surprised at all if we saw Alexander tonight. And then Throckmorton gives you some depth on the interior offensive line. He can play guard, he can play center. And with Luke Wattenberg still down for at least the next 3 weeks with his injury on injured reserve, this means that Throckmorton is probably going to be active for at least those 3 games. Additionally, the Broncos announced that they have waived Blake Watson this afternoon. This one also comes as a slight surprise, but not as big a surprise as it would have been a couple of weeks ago. Watson has barely seen the field for the Broncos. He was only active for 1 game. I believe it was the Raiders game. Got 1 touch in that game, and that was it. So clearly, they believe Jaleel McLaughlin can still provide that burst and explosiveness out of the backfield. They believe that Audric Estime and Javonte Williams are adequate receiving backs out of the backfield. I would have personally kept Watson around, but that's just me. They are now exposing him to waivers, which potentially risks him getting poached by another team. The Broncos were clearly worried enough about it in August when they trimmed down their roster to not expose Blake Watson to waivers. So we'll see what happens here. I'm very interested to see if some team poaches Blake Watson or if the Broncos can get him back on the practice squad. They had to waive Watson because it was announced that they have activated all 3 players from injured reserve who were eligible to come off. In Damari Mathis, in Mike McGlinchey, and in Baron Browning. All 3 of those guys have been activated, and I anticipate all 3 of them to be dressed, and at least Baron Browning and Mike McGlinchey being able to see the field in this game. I don't know how much Damari Mathis is going to see the field, but they clearly wanted some more depth at corner with Pat Surtain being out, so that is why Mathis has been activated. So overall, several roster moves the Broncos have made ahead of the game. The most surprising one is probably moving on from Blake Watson, but again, less surprising than it would have been a couple of weeks ago. I'm also slightly surprised that A.T. Perry was not activated, but again, they clearly feel confident enough in guys like Devon Vele, Troy Franklin, and Marvin Mims to step up. Hopefully, they are proven right. All right, Broncos country, I am curious. How do you guys feel about the Broncos' decision to move on from Blake Watson as well as not activate A.T. Perry for this game? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are both free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.